Show. I am Mary Grace, the voice of sanity, to help you navigate politics, culture, wellness, faith, and world events. And I am here today with my good friend Dave, also known as Praying Medic, and we are bringing you the 27th episode of Conspiracy of Truth. And we have a couple of disclaimers before we start because it always gets into this territory. One is that this is not an interview, this is a conversation between friends. And so if you are tempted to make a comment that says something like, Mary Grace, stop talking, let Dave talk, you're probably going to get deleted or something. The other thing is, we are not ever going to message you on Telegram trying to sell you crypto or precious metals or the latest get rich quick scheme or whatever it is. Neither of us will ever direct message you on Telegram specifically. There are a lot of crazy um, uh, copycat accounts over there, and that's my intro, Dave. Um, it has been a minute since we had a show, and we are going to talk about quite a few things today. Right now, Dave is sharing links, and when he shares those links, we're going to get a ton of people in here watching. But for now, I will let you know that Dave and I have been both pretty busy working on outside projects, which is why you haven't seen us doing a show together since Trump's 100th day in office. That was
Oh,
the last
I
show we
will
did.
show
I
that.
can hear myself. That was our last show
Because
together.
I just clicked on the live stream.
So you can see this is a highly professional outfit here. And
It
you,
is.
the producer, you're looking at the producer right here. This is custom produced right here in my studio. Hi, Terry. We have one of our longtime listeners watching on Facebook. Good to see you. Anyway, so since Trump's 100th day in office, I think it's safe to say that we have quite a bit to talk about. Oh, good. We have Scott from Scotland joining us. Hello. Um, and I love the fact that no matter how old I get, he always calls me lass. Love it. Um, so I think I want to be Scottish. Um, so
You want to? I
I
want to
want
be
to be
Scotland.
Scottish. I want to be Scottish. No, I want to be. Lately, I've been trying to be Switzerland, just neutral, but it doesn't always work. Um,
Me, I'm in my prime.
it's Oh my goodness. Okay, the jokes have already started. If you are on wherever you are watching, what we really want to ask you to do right now before we start, obviously, this is going to be like I said, a conversation between friends. We are going to cover all kinds of topics today. If you're watching on replay and you don't like what we're talking about, instead of telling us to hurry up, you can actually hit the fast forward button. If you don't like what we're talking about on the live, you can go make a beverage, walk your dog, feed the cat, chase the squirrels off your deck, whatever it is you need to do, and then you can come back. So that's the way live streams work. I'm a little snarky today. It's been a while.
You are.
Yeah, I haven't done a live stream in a long time. I'm a little snarky, but
This is dangerous because I can get snarky too. Somebody around me is being snarky.
cue the snark.
We
Okay,
got to be
well, okay. Welcome to Snarkaritaville. We are
careful.
on our way. Um, Look, we've got somebody. Okay, greetings from Florida. Nanny on Q says, thanks for praying for my son. I think that's for you. Had the surgery, but no colostomy bag. Well, that sounds like a victory.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Speaking of prayers, I'm just going to throw this out here. We don't usually do prayer requests on this show, but I am aware of a young boy named Jackson, a child, maybe a toddler, who has been having seizures. And my sister actually asked me to put this out there because the family they're trying all kinds of things. They just can't get to the root of it. They've seen a naturopath. They've gone in every direction. So we just need a miraculous healing for this boy, and we also need a miracle healing for Chris. Chris needs a kidney, and I'm not going to go into details, but Chris needs a kidney, and it's pretty serious. Um, he is not a good candidate for transplant, and there's lots of other issues that come with that. So let's just put that out there. Um, okay, Dave, why don't I do some sharing on social media while you talk a little bit? And maybe you can explain to people how since we're talking about prayer, let's start with that. How
Yeah.
people can go to your channel, how they can put in prayer requests on your Telegram, Supernatural Saturday, those types of things, because a lot of people don't actually know that that Dave wears like about 12 different hats. And so this is one of them.
This is one of them. Yeah. I used to do a lot of podcasts back in the day, especially when Q was posting. I was doing podcasts 4 or 5 times a week. In 2020, I started doing daily podcasts, news and current events messages. But that's a lot of work. A lot of people don't realize when you do a podcast, especially if it's news and current events, where you have to do research to find out what's going on, breaking news, dig into the articles, and find out who the players are and what's happening. My workflow for doing like a 30-minute news and current events show it would take me 5 or 6 hours a day to do that. That's all I was doing.
It's a lot.
Wasn't writing any books, wasn't doing anything else. And, God bless the people who are doing it, but that's, it's a tough road to do that. So on the subject of prayer requests, if you have a prayer request, whether it's for healing or a financial miracle or some other issue that you got going on, you can always email me. I receive prayer requests through my email. My email is admin@prayingmedic.com. You can hit the contact page on one of my websites, prayingmedic.com or prayingmedic.org. Either one of those, I've got an email link there. You can email me. If you have questions about dream interpretation, deliverance, physical healing, emotional healing, anything supernatural. I've written tons and tons of books on those subjects. My books, by the way, are all available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And by the way, in addition to the fact that Mary and I will not message you on Telegram, we're not going to message you on X or Facebook or WhatsApp. I had a guy who's been emailing me now for 2 days, swearing that I've been communicating with him on WhatsApp. I've never had a WhatsApp account. There's all these frauds and phonies out there who are messaging people pretending to be podcasters and social media influencers. And look, influencers do not randomly out of the blue just start messaging people about cryptocurrency and Nasara and Jasara and QFS and all this other stuff. We just don't do that. If you're receiving those messages, block the person and report them and move on with your life. So, I don't know. I feel like I keep having to say that, but it's ironic that it seems like the people who need this information never listen to my videos. They're just like, they're on some other platform and they hear about me and they're messaging these phonies. And I'm like, do you ever listen to our live streams? Because on every single live stream, I tell people, look, we're not messaging people privately. But anyway,
Exactly.
that's my mental illness for
Exactly.
today.
Exactly. I am almost finished here.
Okay.
My changes save. We are streaming, by the way, on X, Facebook, Rumble. Where else? I don't even know.
Are you on Twitch?
X, Facebook, Rumble. Which one am I missing? Well, YouTube. I forgot about them because they hate.
You're still on YouTube.
Yes. Hi,
Not
YouTube.
me.
Hi. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And it's so funny. I get a guy that messages me all the time on Facebook and he's desperate to help me grow my YouTube channel. I should probably talk to him because he's like, you have great content. You're just not getting it. I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah. I need to start. If I'm going to do a YouTube, I need to start it behind a VPN I need to like move to Australia and just have a whole new IP location in the world and start a YouTube channel from a completely new computer that's never associated with any of my current electronics. That's
Correct.
the way I think I will ever get anywhere on YouTube.
Yep.
So Anyway,
Right.
okay, so I think we're pretty good here. If you're let us know just where you're watching. Oh, you know what? Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dave.
Happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yeah, and to
I already
everybody
talked to
here.
my kids, so I'm good.
Yeah, and I just want to say to my friend Scott, because he makes me feel great. He says, I said, I want to be Scottish because he always calls me lass. And then he says, because you're a bonny lass, MG. I know, I
That's
love it. Well, can I say, do you have a, can I do it with a Scott? Because you're a bonny lass. Is that good? Did I say it okay? Let me know. I don't really know if I can do a Scottish accent because I've never been there. Okay, we have Delia in Rumble. She's doing the moderation, so don't get crazy over there, people. One thing you can do on Rumble though is you can give us Rumble rants, and we like those. That's like a little bit of a monetary tip if you want to do that. We also have a way that you can send us a little tip on Venmo. And if you buy from any of the links that we share during the show, those are affiliate links, and that means we actually make a little money. So if that makes you mad, you're probably a socialist and think you're a
yes.
Republican. So okay, boy, I
Speaking
really
of,
am. I'm so snarky today. Woo!
speaking of affiliate links,
Yeah.
should we jump into our sourdough segment of the show real
Yes,
quick?
because we've already talked about healing. So now let's talk
Okay.
about bread.
All right.
Okay.
So
Yeah, sourdough.
yeah, Mary and I don't normally coordinate the subjects we're going to talk about, but we made an exception this time. I asked her a couple of days ago if we could do a little segment on sourdough bread. And she said, yeah, let's do that. So I'll give you just a quick backstory.
Hey, Dave. Wait,
Yes,
wait. Before you go on, I think you need
yes.
to refresh because you're lagging.
I need to refresh.
Yes, your sound doesn't match your mouth.
Oh, I'm doing kabuki theater.
Yeah, it's a little freaky, I'll be
If I
honest.
refresh on the restream thing, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you might, yeah, just refresh your browser, and if you leave, you know how to get back.
Yeah. All right.
Let's try that.
Here we
Um,
go.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
may
Are you
disappear.
guys seeing it? Are you seeing his mouth isn't matching his words? That's what I'm seeing. Um,
Let's see what the chat says.
okay, somebody's asking if I'm on Telegram. I have a Telegram channel, but I think I posted on it maybe a year ago. Dave loves Telegram. I hate it. And we're still friends. Okay, he's gone. He's gonna come back. And here we go. Let's add him back. Let's see if this is better.
Am I back?
Yeah, I think that's a little better.
Okay.
A move.
I apologize for that. So let's talk about sourdough real quick,
Yes, let's talk about
and I'll give
sourdough.
you just a brief history. My wife, Denise, realized that she was having problems. This is like, gosh, I don't know, 12, 13, 15 years ago. She was having GI problems whenever she ate anything made with wheat. So bread, pizza crust, all that. All the good food that most normal people like. She was having GI problems, and she kind of got diagnosed with gluten intolerance. She's
Yeah.
never been diagnosed with celiac, but it was gluten intolerance. And I'm going to put the air quotes in there because that's what most people have been told over the years is, oh, you have this, it's autoimmune or leaky gut or whatever the condition is, and you have a allergy to gluten. That must be it. Suddenly, the entire population of the United States is allergic to gluten, something that's been in wheat and bread for 2,000 years, 4,000 years, 6,000 years, and now suddenly we're all allergic to it. Well, maybe not. so, so I started talking to people who have been to France and Italy, and even though they can't eat anything made from wheat here in the United States because they have reactions to it, when they go to France or Italy or the UK, they can eat all the bread, all the pasta, all the pies they want, no problems. They come back to the States, they can't eat any of that stuff. So we're like, oh, wait a minute. There's something wrong with the wheat here in the States that's causing the problem. And what we think we've determined is it's probably glyphosate. It's probably, there's a, pesticides that they spray here in the States that they do not use in Europe. And so what people are really people are being poisoned by the wheat supply here in the US.
Let me
So
just wait. I want to add to that. They are being
I
poisoned
wanted to make it
by
short, to make it
the
long.
agricultural industrial complex.
Right.
All right,
Right.
that's all. That's
If you want to, hate on Monsanto, that's fine.
Okay.
Fair point.
Go.
So, we did some experimenting. I bought some Italian flour. You can buy, I think, whatever Italian
Look.
or French flour you want. This is the one that Denise and I've been using. It's Caputo Italian flour. It's a fine grind flour. 00 is the grind. I use this flour for making bread and pizza crust, and it is phenomenal. It's a little bit
Say that
expensive.
again.
It's phenomenal. It's a little bit expensive to buy a bag or two, but if you buy 10 bags, it's relatively cheap. So this is Amazon. You can get this on Amazon, Caputo brand flour. Go to Amazon.
It's right here on the screen.
Yeah, I bought several cases of it. It comes in a case of 10 bags in a case, and I bought several of them.
There we go.
Like I said, if you buy it in bulk, it's relatively inexpensive.
I put the link in the chat too.
So this Italian flour, I've been using it for probably 4 months now. And I make sourdough bread and I make sourdough pizza crust. And Denise has not had any reactions to anything that I've made with this flour. I made chocolate chip cookies with it one time. I have not made chocolate chip cookies with it since then because we're trying. I don't want to be 300 pounds. So we're trying to limit the carb intake to some degree. But so here's the deal. I started making sourdough bread. And I started researching all these different websites, looking for sourdough recipes and how do you do this and what's the process like. It's actually not terribly difficult. I bought some sourdough starter on Amazon. Do you have a link for that or not?
It's coming.
Okay.
I'm adding the link to the Rumble. Okay, here we go. Sourdough starter.
It's all right. I bought some sourdough starter. That one is on the screen. I bought some sourdough starter on Amazon for like, I don't know, $6, $7, something like that. It's a little tiny container of starter. And the starter is a little bit of flour, a little bit of, it's got some wild yeast and some bacterial cultures in there and some water. And that's it. That's it. That's your starter. You take this thing, you add to it. Here's the directions on how to make sourdough bread or pizza crust. You take this container of starter, which is, I think, 3 ounces, 2.5 or 3 ounces. You add 1 part starter to 1 part water and 1 part flour. It's a 1 to 1 to 1 mix. So if that's 3 ounces of starter, you put that in a bowl, the 3 ounces of starter, and you add 3 ounces by weight of water and 3 ounces by weight of flour. Not ounces in a measuring cup, but weight. You weigh the flour, weigh the water, 3 ounces of each, throw it all in a bowl, stir it a little bit, let it sit in a warm spot in your house for about 4 or 5 hours, and it'll start bubbling like crazy as the yeast and the bacteria start to activate and gobble up all the yummy stuff that's in the flour. It'll start to bubble. When it bubbles, you can then take that starter and use that to make your dough. So what you do to make the dough, now that you have your starter going, you take about 3 or 4 ounces of the starters that's in the bowl. You take 3 or 4 ounces of that, weigh it out, 3 or 4 ounces. I will sometimes use actually 5 ounces if I'm making a large batch. So 3 to 4 ounces of the starter mix, and then 13 ounces of water. I use reverse osmosis water because our water here in Phoenix is pretty gunky coming out of the tap. So I use.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, bottled water.
Using a kitchen scale, a little kitchen scale.
Yeah, I use a little tiny kitchen scale that just, has grams and ounces on it.
Okay.
13 ounces of water, 3 ounces of starter, and about 17 to 18 ounces of flour by weight. You mix all that stuff in a bowl, and then you stir it up. Get it stirred really good. If it's a little bit too wet and sticky and runny, add a little more flour. If it's a little bit too stiff, add a little bit more water. I eyeball this a lot. After you make it 2 or 3 times, you'll figure out, oh, this batch is kind of runny. I'm going to add a little bit more flour. This one's too stiff. I'm going to add a little bit more water. You can fine tune it.
Mhm.
And then you put it in the bowl and you let it sit for 30 minutes in the bowl. And then after 30 minutes, you take the whole lump of dough out of the bowl and you start stretching it. Stretch it and fold it and stretch it and fold it about 10 times. Throw it back in the bowl, cover it, and let it sit for 30 minutes. And then after 30 minutes, take it out of the bowl, stretch it, fold it about 10 times, throw it back in the bowl. You do that 4 times. 4 times. And then you let it sit until the entire ball of dough has risen to about 50% of its total volume. So it's expanded 50 and 100% of its volume. When it's done that, you take it out of the bowl. And what I do is, because I'm not going to eat the whole thing right away, I take it out of the bowl, put it on a cutting board with some flour, and I divide it into thirds. I have 3 lumps of dough that are about 400 grams each, and I throw them in a Ziploc, like a little plastic container, throw them in the fridge. You can refrigerate sourdough up to about 10 days or so.
Oh.
If you refrigerate it for at least a day, it'll start to expand. You'll see bubbles and air pockets inside of it, and it'll start to get tangy. Let it ferment for a day or 2, and you'll get that nice tangy sourdough flavor. You can leave it in the refrigerator for a week to 10 days. That's fine.
I have questions.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, for people who don't particularly like the tanginess of sourdough, like me, is it, so you're saying that the longer you leave it in the fridge, the tangier it gets?
Correct. And this particular recipe that I'm giving you does not have a very sharp tang to it. It doesn't taste like store-bought real tangy sourdough. It's very mild. You'll hardly notice it at all.
Are you going to are you going to put this recipe into text for us so that we can share it?
You know what? I may put this up on my cooking blog.
Did you guys know Dave has, wait, let's find it. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at it in a long time. Dave has a cooking blog. This is something from Dave's past that very few people
way long past.
Let's hear it. Let's see it. Come on.
Do you want the
I want the URL? Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's I'm just going to spell it out. It's Dave's Home Cooking .blogspot.com.
Okay, let's find. Let me see.
And I haven't posted a recipe on there in probably 8 years.
Yeah, it looks like 2010 was your last one. I'm just
Really?
going to go ahead and
Has it been 15 years since I last posted on that?
Yeah, I'm posting the link for everybody, and now your traffic is going to increase. You should monetize that now. Do you want to monetize it?
So what I'll do is I'll post the recipe on that website later on today. But yeah, this is not a real tangy sourdough. It doesn't have that tang. It's very mild. It tastes kind of like a good. And here's the thing, if you make this recipe, it has no sugar, it has no preservatives. It's 100% natural. It's literally just flour and water and a little bit of wild yeast and some bacterial cultures. That's it. There's nothing in there that's going to be like toxic or dangerous, for blood sugar, other than, it's wheat. So it does have some carbohydrates. It's a very mild sourdough, doesn't have a lot of tang. It is really crusty. So if you take one of these lumps of dough after, you could, if you wanted to, you could bake it immediately. and it'll have almost no tang at all. If you wait a day or two, you'll get a little bit of a tang. If you let it sit in the fridge for 10 days to 2 weeks, it'll get more tangy. But bake it in an oven 350 to 400 degrees, whatever your preference is. It develops a super good crust, even without an egg wash. If you want a really nice brown crust, take an egg, whisk it up, brush it on the dough. You'll have a really nice golden brown crust. If that's not important to you and eggs are too expensive for you, just bake the darn thing for about 40 minutes in a 350 to 400 degree oven. I shape it into a baguette. I like the thinner baguettes, but you can make it any shape you want. And super good crusty bread. Holy moly. The crust is just, if you like crusty bread, that is the way to go. Right out of the oven, it's great.
We have a question from Tidy Girl
Go ahead.
88. Any salt? Are you using salt?
Oh, you know what? I forgot the salt.
Yeah. Okay.
10 grams of salt.
10 grams of salt. That's so
10
exact.
grams. Right. So 2 teaspoons.
Here's how I cook. I'm like, just a little salt.
I know.
Just a scotch.
So 10 grams of salt is the recipe. Roughly a little bit less than 2 teaspoons.
Okay.
If you add 2 teaspoons, it's fine. Yeah. So there's salt is going to be added in there. And what the way that you do it is, here's the actual process.
Okay.
You take the starter, you put the starter in the bowl first when you're going to mix ingredients, then put in the water, the 13 ounces of water. Mix the water and the starter together and get them nice and stirred in together. Because if you don't do it, if you add the flour first, it's going to turn into a mess. The starter will not uniformly spread throughout the entire dough. So first put in the starter, then put in the water, 13 ounces of water. Then put in the salt, 10 grams of salt. Throw it in there, stir it up good.
Starter, water, salt.
Starter first, then the water, then the salt, then between 17 and 20 ounces of flour, depending on how big you want your batch to be. Then put the flour in, then stir it up. Yeah, thank you for reminding me about the salt.
Okay, so
and then stir it up and then let it rise 30 minutes, 4 times. Stretch it in between, and then let it sit until it rises up 50%. Slice it up into 3 segments to make into breads, or you can slice it into 2 larger segments and have slightly larger breads if you're into bigger breads.
Bigger breads. And Delia points out accurately that when you have a round loaf, that's known as a boule, and when you have a long, skinny loaf, that is a baguette.
Correct.
And then if you have a very large, elongated loaf, that is a bâtard.
Ooh, very good.
Yeah.
I like the baguettes because if the round shape or the taller shapes, it takes longer to bake them, and you get a chance of having wet dough on the inside, and I don't like wet dough on the inside of my loaf. So I found it when I use a baguette, a moderately, maybe 8 or 9 inch long loaf that's about 2 inches in diameter is really good. It gets uniformly baked throughout. You don't get wet spots inside, and it works really well.
We have, in addition to the links that I have up on the screen, I'll put the link for the flour up here again. If you simply want to click and order, you can do that. We have some good resources from people in the chat. Paula in Mesa, Arizona says Superstition Ranch Farmers Market in Mesa is a treasure trove. They have a website, raw milk, fresh eggs, and they carry the Italian flour and pasta as well.
Kidding. I could probably just it's like 20 miles.
Yeah, you just go there. And one thing I do know that I don't eat much of that type of thing anyway, but we've talked about this on the show, that some of the pastas that you can buy commercially are also Italian made, but you still have to watch out, because one of the things that I think is also a problem is the bromide that they use to condition the dough. And so anytime you see enriched flour that is going to have been conditioned with bromide, that is a halide, and it competes with your thyroid. So anybody that has any kind of autoimmune or thyroid condition
Stay away
wants
from
to
bromide.
stay really far away from bromide.
Yeah.
And so if you're gonna take a chance on any flour-based product, look for those things that are not enriched, right?
Yep. And I will tell you, for those of you who are interested, because Denise likes a little bit of angel hair pasta sometimes, Colavita is an imported Italian pasta that's actually very good. We've been trying that now for several months. Denise has had no reactions to it.
Okay, good. And
It's
then also
imported from
Rouse.
Italy. Yeah, Rouse is good. Rouse, their sauces are good. Their pasta is good.
And sometimes you can get those at Costco, the Rouse.
Correct. Yeah.
And okay, so then the other one, Millie is telling us that Azure Standard is a good source. That let me see what she said. She said if you go to their website, you can actually also buy the whole wheat berries. So if you're really getting ambitious, you want to grind up those wheat berries at home, you go for it. Okay. So I mean, if you're feeling homesteady and you want to grind your own wheat, that's where you can get your wheat from Azure Standard. But I think they also sell they sell a lot. They have a lot. That's a good website. I should probably get an affiliate link with them. We had a question about salt. Delia is taking care of everybody with the salt. Himalayan gray Celtic salt.
Yeah.
Regular table salt has too much sodium. It's kind of freaky anyway. I used to use it to kill slugs on our sidewalk.
Right. Well, we prefer the pink Himalayan salt, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
add some salt to it.
Delia also said some people bake the round ones in the Dutch oven without the top on the oven. So that's
Yep.
that's
another
pretty cool.
option.
All right. So, and my neighbor is chatting in the Facebook. Hi, neighbor. Yes, we did not go out for breakfast this morning. We just stayed home. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do now. Bread. Everybody's been clicking the link. Let me just give you one more chance to
Switching subjects without a segue.
yeah, we got sourdough starter. Okay, we started with prayer and healing. Now we've got bread. And I don't know, Dave, should we jump right into the crazy things that are going on in the world?
Heck yeah.
Before we do that, let me just show. I have a great picture here that I want to show everybody. So now let's just jump into the new. We're going to talk about news and world events. So here we go. This is what is on the minds of all the liberals nowadays. Not the flour. Let me take that off. Look at that. So this has pretty much half the planet triggered. The White House Facebook page published this.
It's also on their Instagram
and
account.
on their Instagram. So whoever's running that account, app, I think it might be Stephen Miller. I think that's what he's doing when he's not out there just dragging the
bludgeoning the media in his press conferences.
Yes. So anyway, King Trump, long live the king. So here we go, guys. This is where we are in the political realm now. Yesterday, the country was, how do I get this off of here? Hold on. Yesterday, as you know, unless you've been living under a rock, there was a concerted effort by the deep state, I would say, like the dying breath, the last throes of tantrums by Pantifa and Transifa and all of the deep state that have gotten their minions out there to protest. What are they protesting now?
Well, apparently we have a benevolent king who allows his opponents to protest against him.
Oh, okay. So no kings. That's right.
No
And people are throwing their entire lives away, to protest the deportation of violent gang members and criminals who are here illegally. Watercolor Blue on Rumble is saying something that resonates with me, so we need to segue back.
Mary, your microphone it sounds like it's underwater again. It's
again?
Been that way. Nope, now you're okay.
Okay, well, I'm not going to move.
You're back.
Okay. Whoa. Watercolor Blue says, I may or may not be in love with Stephen Miller. I just wanted to say, I got you, girl. Same. Okay. All right.
Stephen
So
Miller is a national treasure. Holy cats. I love that guy.
he like his I have an intellectual crush on him. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
Um, all
Yeah.
right, so moving on. Yes, Christy says there is no king but Jesus. Absolutely.
Correct.
Um, and so anything that we say about Trump as king is obviously tongue in cheek. Um,
Right.
because when these people meme themselves, then we meme them until they cry, and then we meme them crying.
That
So
is what we do. That's what we do
okay,
best.
all right. So that's what we're doing now. What do we want to say? The protests. They're not protests. They're
It's a color revolution.
color revolution. Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
call it
So
what
can
it
you
is.
explain that?
It-
Explain it.
yeah. So what the deep state has been doing for decades, specifically State Department and CIA, has been doing for decades is called a color revolution. There's an actual legitimate playbook that explains step by step how organizations like the CIA and the State Department will recruit and pay for and fund and create posters and create social media content and, and create this astroturfed movement inside of a country to overthrow a democratically elected leader when that leader does not kowtow to the US deep state's agenda. We will infiltrate the country with protesters, infiltrate the country with rioters, create a fake astroturfed revolution, and overthrow the country's elected leader. We started doing it with the Shah of Iran decades ago. We did it in Ukraine in 2014. We got rid of their president and put in a failed comedic actor in his place. These color revolutions have been going on for a long time. And what is happening in America right now is they tried to do it in 2020 with Black Lives Matter. They're trying to do it again this year with the No Kings and this whole thing about the protesting the deportation of criminal illegal aliens. They use the criminal illegal aliens thing, the Black Lives Matter, as a cover. What they're really trying to do is cause a violent overthrow of a U.S. president. That's what their end game is. They want to get rid of Trump, and through violent means. And so they make it look like all these mostly peaceful protesters, but the real agenda is to foment enough inorganic riots and protests to force Trump out of office. That's really what they're trying to do, and they're going to fail, but they're going to die trying anyway. I mean,
they're losing. Yes, they're definitely losing control of the narrative. And the crazy thing, obviously, about this is that your tax dollars, all of that money that have been
you're paying for it,
paying, and you've been following the rules, and you're paying for it. You've been paying for it. You paid for the stolen election. You paid for the George Floyd fiasco. You paid for Pantifa to climb the White House fence and be infiltrated by Chinese nationals. What else have you paid for? You paid for the media to slander you and label you a white supremacist.
You paid for a worldwide propaganda campaign through USAID to indoctrinate Islamic groups in the Middle East using Sesame Street shows and every other insane thing that you could think of. We're paying for all of this nonsense.
Yes, and let's not forget the biggest, most effective propaganda campaign ever in the history of mankind, also known as COVID-19. That whole thing. And can you believe people are still wearing masks? I went somewhere the other day. Every time, well, I actually there's this one guy when I go, I still shop at Target. It's close to my house. Go ahead, cancel me now. I do pick up sometimes. There's certain items I buy there, and one of the guys who brings the things out to the car has wears a mask. I'm like, I'm like, what is wrong with you?
I know.
Anyway,
I know.
so yeah, just yeah.
So yeah, we're paying for all of it. And if you would like some good information on all of this circus that's going on, Mike Benz on X. Benz is he used to work at the State Department. And so Benz has a lot of personal insights and information as to how all of these government agencies and NGOs are taking taxpayer money to fund all of this crazy radical ideology and these overthrow governments. Benz is like the currently the best expert available on all of the subject. Go and follow him on X and go through his videos and his posts. He's explaining it all in relatively easy to understand terms.
I would also say a little bit of a caveat with Mike Benz is that he kind of has a potty mouth. So if you do listen to his videos, just there's that. But the other person that I would recommend is Data Republican. If
Oh,
you really like to get into the nitty-gritty and the research of what is happening, this woman is absolutely brilliant. She has been able to uh, dive very deep into the databases, the USAID. She's implemented AI to categorize things and to create searchable databases of many of these organizations. And her most recent project is that she has been exposing what the funding behind No Kings Day.
great.
And so that's a tremendous resource, especially if you have if you're talking to people who are sort of near normies that can't quite get their head around what's happening or that it could be true. Those are good resources because the receipts are there. And
Yep.
of course, there's always that certain percentage of people that have their head in the sand that are beyond hope. There's a certain amount who just can't be saved. Some of them may have unfriended you or completely divorced you from their lives. And those are not the ones I would be talking to. Uh, but we all have somebody like that in our lives. At the same time, sometimes you just quietly go about your life and do the things you're doing, and then one day you might get a call from that person and say, or a message saying, you know, you may be right. That's happened. So don't,
Yep.
even if you're not trying actively to talk to people, certain people, just go on being you. And you may be surprised because people are watching, right? You've seen
Yep.
that, haven't you, Dave?
I have seen it. I
Yeah.
have witnessed it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of converts have come to see the light in the last 8 years since the
Yeah.
beginning of Q. A lot of people got red pilled during the Q operation. A lot more got red pilled during COVID and Black Lives Matter. All these little things that come along just red pill more and more people, awaken their eyes. They see what's going on, and just keep praying for your friends and relatives to open their eyes, see the light, and God can work in them if you just keep praying for them.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And somebody made a comment about No Kings, and I want to address this because I think it bears addressing. So the Walmart heiress actually has been identified as one of the major funders of the No Kings riots, and Walmart actually put out a statement disavowing any connection with her. So I thought that was very interesting.
And that
Um,
is interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So and again, you know, I don't know all of the ins and outs and the politics of Walmart, but there are companies that were started. Um, there are heirs and heiresses to certain empires, commercial enterprises that really don't have a working association with those companies. That's not to say that I'm giving Walmart a blanket pass,
Right.
because they got some issues.
Right.
But I am aware of this particular situation that they have come out in opposition to that association with her on that.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
yeah, there's that. Okay, so Dave, I think that I want to really take a shift over to talking about what's been going on. You put up a really good a post. You put up a post,
A thread.
a thread yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
About what's been going on in the Middle East, and you referenced some some Q posts, which also came from your fourth Q book.
Right.
And I think it would be good to dive into that.
Okay.
And just in case we have like super normies who don't know what Q is, just give us
I'll,
a really quick synopsis and then we'll go
30
back
second
into that.
elevator pitch.
Yes.
Right. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Q, or QAnon, as the mainstream media likes to refer to it, Q is an anonymous intelligence insider who was associated with President Trump during his first term in office. Q dropped almost 5,000 posts on various internet messaging boards over the course between 2017 and 2022. And Q hasn't posted in several years. But back at that time, Q was revealing evidence of institutional corruption and having tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around the world digging into and exposing and looking into all this institutional corruption, everything from the Vatican to the State Department, CIA, higher education, big pharma. Lots of institutional corruption was being exposed. That's what the Operation Q was about. And in the thread that I put out on Twitter X a couple of days ago, I took a post that has been highly controversial, like post by Q from 2018, that isn't really clear on the surface what it means. And a lot of people have taken the interpretation in a couple of different directions. So I just explained by connecting a bunch of other Q posts and other related articles what I think Q is saying in this post. And the quote is, "We are saving Israel for last." Right. So, Mary, you want to?
Well, yeah, lots of speculation around that quote. And
Yeah.
people have built entire channels around that particular saying um, uh, from Q.
True.
Uh, they built entire I'm serious, they have. They built entire platforms on that.
Right.
And so it's interesting because this also probably is a good time to address the fact that you see a lot of people capitalizing off of the Q movement. And one of the things that sets Dave apart from a lot of those people is that Dave pulls in everything and he contextualizes everything. He doesn't take random quotes out of context to lead people down a rabbit trail on one topic or another. His work on Q is exhaustive and very contemplative in some ways, but and it's very well researched. So I would really caution people from jumping into some of these accounts, especially if they are taking one or two particular quotes from Q out of context and building an entire platform around those.
Right. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of people who comment on Q's posts, is they don't take the context into consideration. They lift a particular phrase from a post. They don't even tell you what the rest of the post says, much less what was the context,
Yeah.
what was the date, what was happening at that time in current events, because everything that Q posted about almost all of it has to be contextualized within what was happening at that time geopolitically, because Q is commenting on things happening at that time. And a lot of people will take a single post from Q and then spin it into, this whole other discussion is not at all related to what Q is talking about, right? So this particular post by Q, "We're saving Israel for last," literally came up in a discussion about Imran Awan and the Imran Awan scandal from 2017,
Those
2016.
Pakistanis, we
Right.
haven't heard the end of those two brothers, have we?
I don't know. I don't think so. But
Okay.
if you don't understand the root origin of where this discussion came from, you're going to totally miss out on what's going on here. So there was this discussion going on let's see. I think this was still on 4chan because I think it was 8chan actually. Q has posted a number of boards. November and December of 2017, Q was on 4chan. 4chan got infiltrated by the CIA. Q then moved to 8chan. Q posted
Imagine
on
that.
Yeah, I know. Q posted on several different boards on 8chan. Calm Before the Storm was one of the boards, and then Great Awakening was another board. Q started on Politically Incorrect or Poll on 4chan, but moved to different boards due to different problems. A lot of the board owners were actually compromised by the CIA and tried to lock Q out and say that he was not actually Q, that his trip code is compromised and all this other nonsense. But all of that is to say, Q was posting at the time, and an Anon asked about Imran Awan and is Israel involved in this scandal with Imran Awan. So Imran Awan was a Pakistani IT specialist who was hired by the Democratic caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. So the Democrat caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives hired Imran Awan to manage their computers and their servers and their data.
Wasn't he brought in by that Brillo head lady from Florida, Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Keep an eye on her.
Yes.
Right.
So what happened with Imran Awan was we're going to go down a little bit of a rabbit trail here.
This is important, though.
It is kind of. Imran Awan actually set up a proprietary BlackBerry network inside of Washington, D.C. for Hillary Clinton and her friends. He had these BlackBerry phones, and he set up a local network that only Hillary's compatriots, Democrats inside Washington, had access to through these BlackBerry phones. He set up an entire phone network inside DC to try to get around the NSA's surveillance and their ability to scoop up people's communications. Anyway, Imran Awan, from the research I've done, he hasn't been charged with this, but it looks like he exfiltrated a lot of the secret information, communications, computer data, servers. It was said by some people that he took these servers to Pakistan and was selling it on the black market, selling information he stole from members of Congress. Okay. So just to give you a little flavor about where this discussion of saving Israel for last came from. This was the original thread where Q and these Anons were talking about this. And
because Trump brought it up in an interview. Whatever happened to those?
Yeah, whatever happened to the Pakistani IT guy? Is he ever going to see justice? Right? Trump had brought it up. So this Anon brings it up, and then Q says, interesting, isn't it? And this one Anon says, hey, is Israel involved? And Q says, we're saving Israel for last. Very specific reason. It has not been mentioned a single time. So in all of Q's operation up to that point, Q had never mentioned Israel in any of his posts. He talked about Saudi Arabia. He talked about the UAE. He talked about UK and Australia and corruption in all kinds of countries, but never mentioned Israel one time. So a lot of people were like, yeah, what's up with that? Why hasn't Q mentioned Israel? If this is like an exposure of global institutional corruption, why hasn't he talked about Israel? Right? So that statement was taken by a lot of people, and then people began to read into it their own interpretations of what does that mean? And I had researched this and looked into various interpretations and possibilities, and I brought this thread out 2 days ago because of the war between Iran and Israel. And it just seemed like it was a good time to look into some of Q's older posts, which a large segment of Q's posts has to do with the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal that was approved by Barack Obama during his term in office, which was facilitated by John Kerry and some other people. But if you don't read the posts, or if you just gloss over these issues, one of the most frequently discussed issues, and I would argue the greatest threat to humanity, according to Q, is Iran's nuclear weapons program. That has been continually hammered over and over again by Q, how Obama and the State Department and the CIA got the European leaders to sign off on this JCPOA, the Iran deal, and it removed sanctions from Iran and allowed them to continue enriching uranium with IAEA inspections, which Iran did not allow the IAEA to come in and do the inspections. And then we find out in, April of 2018, Benjamin Netanyahu called a press conference and presented evidence that Iran had developed secret nuclear weapons programs, one in Syria and one in Iran. And he presented all this evidence, right? So I'm going to the end of the story. In this thread that I posted, I bring out the point that the only other mention of Israel in all of Q's posts was this particular day, I think it was April 29th, 2018, where Netanyahu brings out and discloses all this evidence that Iran had a secret nuclear weapons program, and it was they were running under the radar and hoping that no one would find out about it, in violation of the JCPOA. So Q, when Netanyahu did that press conference, Q posted and said, regarding recent revelations by Netanyahu, something to the effect of this is verified information. And then Q goes on to ask questions. Why was the JCPOA such an important thing for Obama to bring in? Why was this allowed to be covered up? And then Q also talks quite a bit about the money that was being paid to European leaders to get them to keep quiet about the development of Iran's nuclear weapons program. Basically, Q has insinuated that European leaders are being bribed and paid off to stay silent about it because their end game was to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon, have Iran launch a nuclear strike, start World War III, and after World War III is done, they eradicate all international borders and have a global superstate. Literally, they were planning and still are planning the plot of the film, Sum of All Fears. And if you go into the Q posts, there's a lot of posts by Q that have Sum of All Fears as what Q calls a signature phrase. A signature phrase in Q's posts ties related posts together into a cohesive statement about what's going on.
Mhm.
A lot of what has been going on in geopolitics over the last 8 years is literally the plot of the film Sum of All Fears, where global leaders have actually been hoping to allow Iran or North Korea to develop a nuclear weapon, launch a strike, start World War III, and then bring in a fascist superstate after the war is over. That is the end game they've been working toward. So Q has exposed this, and Trump has been working to thwart this from happening by making peace with Kim Jong-un, trying to get him to back off of his development of his nuclear program during his first term in office. He has stated repeatedly over the last, 6 or 7 months, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Full stop, end of statement. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And so last week, finally, Israel decided, okay, Trump's 60-day time clock is run out. So President Trump gave Iran basically an ultimatum. He said, I'm giving you 60 days in which to agree to a new nuclear agreement. And that nuclear agreement is going to specify that Iran is not allowed to enrich uranium at all, ever, period. All right. And Iran kind of strung along U.S. negotiators, I would say. This is my own personal thing. Iran was never going to agree to those terms.
Right.
They were never going to agree to not enrich uranium. Their end game was, we're going to enrich uranium. And although we're not going to admit it publicly, we are certainly going to work toward building nuclear weapons. That's their game. Their game is they needed to get a nuclear weapon so that they could use that as leverage to further increase their sphere of control. So Trump has still, this is just the weirdest thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about President Trump's messaging on this whole issue. So from the beginning, when President Trump offered to do negotiations with Iran, his bottom line was, we'll negotiate. Let's have some peace talks. But the end game is, you're not going to be enriching uranium. That's the bottom line. And he's always stuck to that bottom line. Now, Steve Witkoff has been negotiating with Iran over the course of the last 60 days and has been, Trump has at various times signaled that he's optimistic. Maybe we can reach a deal with Iran. Maybe I'll be announcing something soon that is going to be very good. His messaging has been kind of a little bit muddy, because he'll say that, and then a couple of days later he'll say, well, things aren't going very well. I'm not very optimistic about this whole thing. So he's been going back and forth. From my perspective, I have never thought that Iran would ever agree to any kind of a new deal. They just weren't going to do it. And right now, where we're at is President Trump has stated publicly, number one, United States is not involved in the current military action against Iran, that we're out of it. We're not involved in it.
Yeah.
It's not our thing. It's Israel's war, and we're not involved. That's his official statement. He is still telling Iran, look, meet with me on Sunday, today, and let's hammer out a peace agreement, right? So he's still on his timeline. Witkoff is still technically scheduled to meet today with Iranian negotiators.
Okay.
That we've seen a lot of news reports saying that meeting has been called off. Iran has said, we're not going to participate. We're done. Okay, fine. But Trump still has to work on his timeline. And here's where a lot of people are getting confused about what's happening with Trump. A lot of people say that Trump should just have our military go into Iran and just bomb the crap out of them, hit the deep. So the nuclear program the nuclear sites in Fordo and Isfahan and Natanz are buried deep underground, under a mountain. In one case, under a mountain, and the regular bombs that Israel has access to can't get to those deep, lower level facilities. The only thing that can penetrate that far are these massive 30,000 pound bombs that only the United States has. We have them on our B-2 bombers, which are not in the area right now. The B-52s could probably drop them as well. There's 4 B-52s at Diego Garcia, but there's no sign that we're going to drop those big bombs to hit those deep level facilities in Iran. Not right now. And here's the thing. A lot of people are calling for Trump to just go in there and drop those bombs. Here's the problem. Trump is still on his timeline. And as of today, he's still trying to negotiate a deal with Iran. Now, tomorrow, when Iran doesn't show up at today's scheduled meeting with Witkoff, tomorrow Trump is going to have to make a decision. What is he going to do with respect to Iran? Because today is the last scheduled meeting for negotiations. And if Iran doesn't show up, then Trump needs to come up with another plan. And tomorrow, Trump may say, okay, we're going to send in our military. I don't think he will. Because right now, the latest message from Trump is, if you go on Truth Social and see what Trump is signaling now, Trump is offering to negotiate a peace deal between Israel and Iran. I'm going to say that again. Trump is offering to negotiate a peace deal between Israel and Iran. Okay? That is a message I don't think anyone anticipated. That says to the world, not only is the United States not involved in the aggressions against Iran, Trump is offering to negotiate a peace deal between the two countries. He can't negotiate a peace deal if he's involved in the attack on Iran. Right? So I expect Trump's position is going to be, we're not in this battle. We're not assisting. It's not our thing. And Trump has also suggested that Putin might also help facilitate a peace agreement between the two countries. So Trump is clearly signaling that his intention with this war is he's not going to be involved as a combatant. The United States is, I don't think we're just not going to be involved. We may, now let's go to the nuanced part of this whole discussion. There's been a lot of speculation online through open source intelligence investigators, people who post stuff mostly on X. They're really good people and they do really good work. They have seen evidence suggesting that the U.S. has been helping Israel and knock down some of the missiles that are coming from Iran. There is, it's very easy to make an argument that the U.S. is providing intelligence services to Israel during this campaign. We have access to intelligence services that Israel doesn't have access to. And so there's this suggestion that we're doing intelligence sharing with Israel. That's probably true. I saw a post from one of the guys who does open source intelligence thing, and they found a rocket motor from a rocket that is only launched by U.S. guided missile
interesting
ships, and there happens to be a couple of them in the Gulf of Arabia right now. So and it was in Iran. So there's a suggestion that one of these Arleigh Burke destroyers launched a missile at one of the projectiles. It was a rocket that was coming from Iran and hit it, and it landed in Iran. And people found it and like, oh, look, it's a U.S. missile from an Arleigh Burke class destroyer. So there's some evidence that the U.S. actually is involved in at least defensively helping Israel knock down some of these missiles coming from Iran. There has been suggestions that France, the UK, Starmer has come out and said he's sending aircraft and ships to the area to help fight Iran. UAE, the Saudis, Azerbaijan, a lot of neighboring nations are
Yeah.
assisting in knocking down the missiles coming from Iran. Is the U.S. involved in that? I would say probably. But again, Trump's official position is we're not the aggressor. We're not going to join Israel. We're not going to be, dropping bombs on Iran. It's not going to happen. I think it's purely defensive. It looks like if there's any U.S. involvement, it's just the U.S. helping knock down missiles that are being sent toward Israel.
Mhm.
I don't think we're doing any offensive attacks at this point. At least Trump certainly has said we're not doing that.
Right, right. Yeah. So I guess the key here being defensive, not offensive. And
Right.
I have some questions about this. I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit trail because everybody has their opinion,
Yep.
but I think that we do need to address the issue of the biblical Israel versus the political modern day Israel, because
Okay.
I think that a lot of times when we look at what Israel is doing now and we look at the corruption in Israel, I mean that is a hotbed of corruption. Mossad is named many times in the Q post as
Right.
not a good entity. Netanyahu has a lot of flaws and a lot of faults.
Yep.
And so, but at the same time, the Lord says in scripture, those who honor Israel, I will honor. And so we have um, this sort of tension between the ancient um, scripture and what God says about Israel.
Yep.
Now, I happen to believe that as Christians, we are grafted in. That's what the Bible says. And
Mhm.
so we are actually also Israel as believers. But
Right.
but taking that in another direction, was God talking about, as Christians, as evangelicals, an undying allegiance, an unquestioning allegiance to the modern day political state of Israel that is marked by those po- physical boundaries in that part of the world? This is a question we could spend an entire show on this. We could do a whole series on this. So I don't think we're going to get a definitive answer, and I don't think everybody's going to believe or is going to have to agree with us on this. But it comes up a lot,
It
um,
does.
right? And so I don't want to leave this elephant in the room
Okay.
right now. How do we
Okay.
deal with this?
All right. I'll just share a couple of thoughts on that.
Okay.
So I think it's good to admit or realize or somehow get in your mind the idea that there is a spiritual Israel and there is a physical Israel. Okay. So the biblical sort of portrayal of Israel is a race of people who were the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? The patriarchs. The lineage of the patriarchs, the people of Israel. That's one manifestation of the concept of Israel. It's the Jewish people who were led by Moses into the wilderness, who at various times disobeyed God and at various times obeyed God and went back and forth. And then when they obeyed God, they were blessed, and when they disobeyed God, they were not so blessed. Right? There's that manifestation of Israel, and then when you get into the New Testament, there is a spiritual Israel. There are the people of God. Right? So in the Old Testament, the people of God was a reference to the nation of the lineage of the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
In the New Testament, the people of God is the people who have joined the family of God through the blood of the Son of God, Jesus, by accepting his eternal, once and for all sacrifice on the cross. We have become the family of God, the people of God, the Israel of God, as Paul writes in the New Testament, through the blood of Jesus, right? So that's another manifestation of Israel. And right, so some theologians will will then say, well, okay, so at this point in history, the church is Israel and there is no other Israel. Whatever this country is in the Middle East, that's not really Israel. That's just some other country. Right. And there's this theology that says that the Jewish people, the Jews, have no inheritance from God at all, that all the promises made to Israel have been transferred to the church, and that the Jewish people have no blessings from God, no promises from God, that the church has taken all of that and it all belongs to the church. That's kind of what some people call replacement theology.
Mhm.
They say that the church has replaced the nation of Israel in God's heart, and all the blessings and all the protection of God are now on the church and not on the nation of Israel. Right. So that's one view. I don't actually ascribe to that view.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a dream. I think it was in March. Came out of the blue, and it's one of the reasons why I've been very closely following the interaction with Israel and Iran over the last year. If you've been following me on Telegram, I'm highly focused on what is going on between Israel and Iran, because God's been giving me dreams and showing me that this is going to come to a head. That's why I've been so focused on it. So in March, I had a dream, and in the dream, I saw Israel. I saw this place in Israel, and there was this wall, and in the wall there was this crack down the wall. And I'm not going to say that it was the Wailing Wall, but it was a wall and it had a big crack down it, and energy was being emitted from this crack. And any time a country or some power attacked the nation of Israel, there would be power and energy coming out of this crack, and it would destroy whatever country was attacking Israel. They would just be decimated. And this was, in the dream, I knew this was an ancient, very old being that was inhabiting this wall and this crack. And they had sort of stood as an eternal watchman over the safety of Israel. That's just what I saw in the dream. And I was like, wow, sounds like there's something very powerful that's kind of protecting Israel to this day, right? So when I had that dream, I was like, oh gosh, this kind of hints at the idea that God is still protecting the nation of Israel. You could interpret that as God is still protecting the church, the spiritual Israel, but I had a sense that it was actually the nation of Israel that was being protected by God.
But yeah, and I think there is a significance to geographical places. I mean, God shows us that throughout the scripture. And so while I'm not sure where I stand on this, but I do think that there is a significance to the physical location of Jerusalem, and the places where Jesus walked, and so much of scripture is centered on that part of the world.
Yep.
So only God knows what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But I also think that what bothers me is when I see evangelicals, especially, making taking such a dogmatic stance in support of Israel, that nobody can criticize Israel as a
Can
as a political power.
Can I offer some insight on that?
Yes.
All right. So here's my perspective on this, and I've been thinking about this for several days. Here's my current position. If you've been following geopolitical events over the last, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you understand that there is a deep state in the United States. There is a deep state in Russia.
Mhm.
There is even a deep state in China, and there is absolutely a deep state in Israel.
Yes.
Right. So there are also, in addition to these shadowy organizations, agencies, and people who are career assets that are continually trying to control spheres of influence and create the never-ending wars and all the other operations that they're doing. In addition to those entities, there's also elected leaders. And the elected leaders are separate from a country's deep state. So, and this is a very important point I want to make here. I want people to really think hard about what I'm going to say. If you did not like Barack Obama during his term in office, let's just say, for sake of an argument, let's say you despised and hated Barack Obama. Does that also mean that you despised and hated America?
Good point.
Okay, so I'm going somewhere with this. Barack Obama may be an elected leader and a representative of the United States, but you don't have to hate America because we had a crappy president. If you despise the CIA, an American intelligence agency, does that also mean you hate America? I don't. I hate the CIA, but I don't hate America. I love our country, even though I hate our deep state, and I don't like some of our presidents. Okay, if you understand that, now let's apply that to Israel. You may not like Benjamin Netanyahu, and you probably don't like Mossad. But does that mean you have to hate the nation of Israel? Because there's some flawed people. Like, Netanyahu is not a saint. Netanyahu has done some really bad things over his career, right? I don't think there's a lot of people are going to argue against that. Mossad is a very is a bad entity, agency.
Mm-hmm.
However, despite that, it doesn't mean you have to hate Israel because they've got some bad actors in there. Just like you don't have to hate America because we have some bad actors in our government and our agencies. The thing that I'm landing on right now is with this, especially regarding this war with Iran, is it's about Iran. It's not about Israel. And that is a problem that a lot of people have. A lot of Anons and a lot of evangelicals cannot take their eyes off of Israel for 1 minute. They don't care anything about Iran. They don't know anything about Iran. They don't know about the culture. They don't know about the people. They don't know about the government. They don't care about the fate. All they're focused on is Israel. And I'm like, look, there's another party in this war. It's called Iran. And there's these people, there's 85 million people, and their fate, their future is swinging in the balance right now. And from my perspective, whether you hate Mossad, hate Benjamin Netanyahu, that's all fine and good. What Israel is doing right now is a massive favor to the Iranian people. They are removing a brutal, terroristic, bloodthirsty political regime that has enslaved those people for 46 years. A regime that was initially installed by the CIA. When our CIA took out the Shah of Iran in 1979 and brought in this bloodthirsty religious regime and its military outfit called the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, they have rained terror on the world and caused war after war after war, which is why the CIA installed that regime in 1979. They have, through all of their proxies, all of their militias in Iraq and Syria, through Hezbollah in Lebanon, through Hamas in Israel, through the Houthis in Yemen, they have perpetuated warfare and killing and terrorism for 46 years. And Israel is putting an end to it. It's going to end. And Netanyahu, here's the difficult thing I'm going to tell you people right now. Regardless of anything that Benjamin Netanyahu has done over his lifetime, he is going to go down in the history books as the only leader, world leader, who had the balls to stand up to a brutal Iranian regime and cut the head off that snake. And he will be written about as a hero in the history books for that act only. In a sense, Netanyahu is going to be written about like Churchill. Now, there's a lot of people who don't like Churchill personally. They don't like his history, they don't like his views on this, things that he did, alliances he supposedly had, all this other stuff about Churchill. I've been reading a lot of really interesting and sometimes bizarre stuff that people have written about Churchill over the last year or two. But all of that is fine. Churchill may have had his faults, but the history books venerate Churchill because he was the one leader in Europe who dared to stand up to the fascists. And he took a very hard, unpopular stand and turned the tide of the war because he decided, we're not going to kowtow to these fascists. We're going to call them what they are, and we're going to end their regime. Mm-hmm. Netanyahu is doing a similar thing. You can say all the bad things you want about Netanyahu, and many of them are going to be true. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Netanyahu has finally done what should have been done decades ago. He is ending this bloodthirsty, tyrannical regime in Iran. And now the Iranian people are going to have a chance to bring back their crown prince, Reza, what's his name? The exiled crown prince of Iran. He did an interview with Maria Bartiromo this morning. If I go to my Telegram thing, I can probably.
Okay, it is
blank. Reza Pahlavi.
Reza Pahlavi.
I've been Reza Pahlavi. I've been tracking Reza for quite some time. He is the son of the Shah who was removed in 1979. He's the oldest son of the Shah, and he is forming a government that can come in and take over control of Iran. And probably it'll be a constitutional monarchy. It'll probably be something similar to what Saudi Arabia has and Jordan and other Middle Eastern countries. He wants to have a secular democracy. That is the important thing. Right now, Iran is under the control of a religious political regime. It's led by religious clerics. And the real power is the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're the power. They're the muscle. Mm-hmm. But the Ayatollah is the figurehead. And they have this brutal religious regime that is just, it's brutal toward its opponents. And if you do not toe the line with them, they will execute you. That's just how they work.
Yeah.
Reza Pahlavi wants to bring in a democratic form of government, a secular government that has no religious affiliation at all. People will be able to practice whatever religion they want under his, if he is reinstalled as the Shah, there will be freedom. He has a lot of ideas about reindustrializing Iran, modernizing it. One of the reasons why the Shah of Iran was deposed in 1979 was he had great plans to modernize Iran, and that irritated and pissed off a lot of Western leaders. They didn't like the things that the Shah wanted to do to modernize Iran. So Riza has a lot of those same ideas, and
Mhm. Interesting.
yeah,
You know,
I'll take a break here.
he lives in Potomac, Maryland, just up the road from us, a couple
Yeah,
hours
yeah.
away. So that's
Now,
very interesting. The the new Shah of Iran. I think you know, my wheels are turning as you're talking about all this because I haven't been following it as as closely. I've had some other things going on in my life, as you know, but I'm thinking about the you know, the Abraham Accords and you know, the things that were happening right up to the very moment that the deep state stole the election in 2020, because this was really key. That for those of you who aren't up to speed on this, that that Jared Kushner and others were working with Trump to meet with and negotiate with with leaders in the Middle East, and instead of trying to bring peace from a religious standpoint, they had the idea of doing business relations. So just starting with that as a pillar for bringing about a foundation that would hopefully lead to peace. So that's known as the Abraham Accords. It didn't get nearly the attention that it should have gotten because of all that was going on. Jared Kushner goes into pretty great depth about it in his book, Breaking. What was his book? Breaking something.
really good book.
Yes, what was his book called? Breaking Freedom
I
something.
forget.
But he goes into that, and so my hunch is that you know this is that we're picking up on where we left off on that.
So
I would hope, you know, and if this happens in Iran, I think that that would catapult that region into a greater peace and stability than we could have predicted.
let me give you a big
Long
picture
time.
view of this.
Yeah.
So Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince, he has had meetings with Israeli officials, and he is absolutely hoping that if he comes back into power in Iran, he wants to uh, have a peaceful relationship between Iran and Israel and every other country in the Middle East, and including Syria and Lebanon, some other countries in Yemen who have not been so friendly to Israel. He wants to be a force to bring peace and cooperation and prosperity to the Middle East and end all of this terrorism and all of these wars. The other thing
Mhm.
that's important about this is uh, China and Russia have a lot to gain by keeping this low intensity conflict in the Middle East going. And so let me explain what I mean by that. Over the last, 10 or 15 years, whether it's Iraq or Syria or Lebanon or Iran, there's all of this kind of low level military campaigns going on, wars, uh, skirmishes between different factions, all this low level conflict. What that does to the United States military posture in that area, which is the central command area of responsibility. So the Middle East is the area of responsibility for central command.
Mhm.
We have all these different combatant commands, and the one just to the east of that is Indo-Pacific Command, which is kind of responsible for East Asia, China, the China Sea. And what has been happening for years is assets are being deployed to the Indo-Pacific Command Theater to deal with threats from North Korea, from China, and other
Mhm.
nations in that in Indo-Pacific Command, and those assets are then immediately moved over to Central Command because we have all these skirmishes going on in the Middle East.
Okay.
It 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 causes an imbalance, and it allows China to do more military operations because U.S. assets are continually being moved from Indo-Pacific Command over to Central Command to deal with all of these terrorist issues that are going on in the Middle East. If Iran becomes a non-combatant, if Israel is able to successfully remove the regime in Iran, and if we get a peaceful government come in there, they will defund Hezbollah, Hamas, they'll defund the Houthis. A lot of the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq will be gone. There could be peace in that region. And then we can do what Trump and Hegseth want to do, which is focus on China, because China is the real threat to America. And as long as we're trying to play policeman in the Middle East with all these wars that are going on, we can't focus on China, and we can't assign assets to Indo-Pacific Command, which is what we need to do. I think one of the big reasons why Trump is dead set against getting involved in this war between Israel and Iran is he knows if he does, he has to commit assets to Central Command that he's going to have to take assets from Indo-Pacific Command, and it's going to weaken our position to be able to react to anything China does. And China is the bigger threat to us, right? Iran does not represent a big threat to us, to the United States. China does. So I think that Trump he has a very serious eye toward the threat that China represents, and he wants to maintain the assets in Indo-Pacific theater to combat anything that North Korea or China does to us. That's something that a lot of people are not kind of factoring into this thing.
Yeah, it's so complex. And, I was just looking because I keep thinking, I've never stopped thinking about the Awan brothers because I think they're more pivotal in all of this than people give them credit for. And I remember Luke Rosiak, he was writing the most about them, and he was so frustrated. He was so frustrating when they kind of got a slap on the wrist and basically deported. But the truth is, there was also a story that came out in Politico about something called Project Cassandra, which was money laundering through car dealerships up in Northern Virginia for Hezbollah. And that was very closely linked. I think we're going to find out more about how closely that was linked with Obama and also, of course, the CIA and USAID. But there is a connection with the Awan brothers and Hezbollah. I think that they were maybe what do you call it? I think they were maybe assets of Hezbollah. I'm not sure that's
Probably.
Yeah. So I just think this is. I mean, it's a tangled web we weave, but it is getting uncovered little by little. And I think that this conversation is a good reminder to people that not only is President Trump a very stable genius, but he
fact check true.
But he's got a lot on his plate, guys. And for those people that are still crying about, oh my gosh, nothing is happening, I think you need to go and rewind the last hour of this show. And go back and look at everything that took place in 2017, 2018. Go back on the congressional record, even with the things having to do with the Awan brothers. This is that's big. This is a chapter, multi-stage production that is being executed, and so many things are being implemented, all the while Trump is still being stabbed in the back by people in his own party. It was, I don't know that it's better or worse than it was in 2016 to 2020, but they still want him dead, and yet he just keeps going. And so give the man some credit. Um, and speaking of stable geniuses, the whole Elon and Trump bromance breakup, renewed bromance, one of the most brilliant psyops ever. But we'll come back to that. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to go back real quickly and
yes.
finish up the saving Israel for last thread.
Okay, let's
I never
land
got to finish.
let's land that plane, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back.
Okay. So we kind of rabbit trailed off on the Q post saving Israel for last because I went to the punchline, which was the fact that Netanyahu exposed Iran's covert nuclear weapons program for the world. And so the punchline there was Q has not portrayed Israel as this heinous, evil, corrupt nation. Q actually kind of gave Netanyahu a little bit of credibility for exposing Iran's secret nuclear weapons program. And my take on the saving Israel for last comment is this: it has been well known that 4chan and 8chan are hangouts for neo-Nazis and anti-Semites. That's not an issue of contention. It's pretty well known. Everyone knows it. I mean, you go on the boards and you'll just see neo-Nazi stuff on there like everywhere. It's all over the place. So Q and President Trump were obviously aware that the boards are frequent hangouts for neo-Nazis and fascists and anti-Semites. And one of the things that Q did in the operation was set up certain contingencies, knowing that the operation was going to be attacked by the mainstream media. So there's probably 1 out of every 8 posts by Q has to do with Q's war against the mainstream media. All right, it's just there's just post after post after post about the corruption in the mainstream media. Q knew that he and his operation and President Trump were going to be attacked by the mainstream media. One of the things you would not want to do if you were Q is give the mainstream media a reason to accuse you of being a Nazi or an anti-Semite, because they would absolutely do that and capitalize on it. So my take on saving Israel for last is Q decided early on, we're not going to talk about Israel because I don't want to be accused of being a neo-Nazi. The media is going to be attacking me enough. I don't want to give them something else to accuse me of. So it's my belief that Q decided early on in the operation, we're not going to talk about Israel because that's just going to turn this kind of into a shit show. And we're just going to be slammed and slandered as being, neo-Nazi conspiracy theorists. So I think that Q intended to save discussions of Israel for last because he didn't want to be accused of being a neo-Nazi. And that's it. That's all that was. It's not this idea that Israel is the worst and we're saving the worst for last, which is what a lot of people online say, that this post was an implication that Israel is the most corrupt of all nations. We're going to save them for last because they're the most corrupt. That's not implied in that post. The post on April 29th, where Netanyahu literally exposes Iran's nuclear weapons program, it is further evidence that Israel is not the big problem. It's Iran. There's dozens and dozens of posts where Q has explicitly stated Iran is the biggest threat to global security. And Israel has had a hand in exposing that and is now neutralizing it. So that's what I have to say about that post, saving Israel for last. And
that's really good. Well, I would say I would like to ask Q, if you're listening, because I know you follow Dave, that would you please post some clarification of that? Because I think a lot of people have been led astray by a lot of the channels, especially on X, who are making more out of that than it is. So if Dave is right, Can you
Let us
can you
know.
can you just let us know? I mean, have Trump say something,
Tippy
maybe
top.
just get him to say tippy top, maybe get him to wear like the yellow tie, the one he wore in India, and say tippy top. That's that's my fleece. Okay. Um, that would be awesome. I would really like that. So, um, we are going to take a break. Let's take a little break. We're going to come back. I think we're not leaving. Some of you may need to refresh yourselves or your beverage, um, or whatever it is that you need to do when we take a break. But don't turn the volume down because we have a couple of little ads here and reminders. One of the things I want to remind people about is that if you didn't see the show coming up and you're not on the email list, go ahead and get on my email list. Go to marygracemedia.com, get on the email list, and I do send out an email before I do shows like this. One of the other things I want to remind people of, um, I've got Christy over in the chat. She is posting links to all of my affiliate partnerships, which is awesome. And there's something that I haven't talked about in a while, and that is my wellness store. I have a wellness store, and I want to bring this up because, people are finding out more and more that the supplements that they're buying online are, let's just say, not exactly what the bottle says they are. They're tainted. There's who knows what's in them. So if you go to my wellness store, if you're looking for pretty much any name brand supplement, we have it there. And if we don't have it, just send me an email, info@marygracemedia.com. We can add it to the storefront and you can do subscriptions. The shipping is fast. So if you're using the other big box stores for your supplements, uh, go ahead and just go to my wellness store and you can order supplements through me and you can put it all on subscription. So whatever it is you're doing, if you're looking for methylated B vitamins, I mean, everybody's got their thing, they've got their stack. And so you can just slowly add my wellness store as your main go-to source, and you're going to have guaranteed purity because everything that we have there is curated by our medical team that knows, they have direct relationships with the suppliers. So I did want to bring that up. Here, I'll take Dave off the camera for just a second so he doesn't have to sit through my ads. But don't go away, Dave. How do I do that? Yes. Okay. If
What do
I
you mean
lose
don't
you,
go
you
away? I'm
I
gonna
know
go
what
get
to do.
a beverage.
He's gonna go get a beverage. Can you get me one too?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So let me just run through this again. I want to let people know this about my wellness store because sometimes I forget to mention it. You can find it on my website, or you can just click the link on the screen. But this is really important. And a lot of people are taking supplements, and if you're buying them from any of these online retailers, stories have been coming out about different impurities and fillers and basically just fake supplements. So you may be paying, top dollar for what you think is a name brand supplement from Amazon or Walmart or things like that, and it's not real. If you go to my wellness store, you will get the real thing. And again, just email me if there's a brand or something that you've been buying and you're not seeing it there. It's info@marygracemedia.com, and then usually it takes about 24 hours for something to populate into the storefront. But just, like give me a link to what it is that you've been buying, or a name brand and whatever it is. Like I said, a big one right now is methylated B vitamins. So I keep bringing that up. But there's, people have all kinds of needs. We have all kinds of things there. We even have infrared saunas. We have infrared lights. We have castor oil, hexane free, that kind of thing. There's a lot in my wellness store. And I just forget to talk about it. So I wanted to give you that opportunity. And then the other thing, speaking of purity, is I always love talking about our grass-fed, grass-finished, freeze-dried beef that we have with our friends at Grid Down Chow Down, because this is amazing stuff. This is a pound of ground beef. It's not jerky, it's actual ground beef upside down. And when you add water to this, you can just use it the way you would fresh beef. You can make spaghetti, meatballs, hamburgers, etc. They have a subscription model that you can use. They also now have pre-made hamburger patties on a subscription model. So this is a fantastic company, American owned, farmland in the Midwest, and you can support them. So every time you buy from them, you help our show, the Mary Grace Show, but you also help preserve American farmland. And that is griddownchowdown.com, promo code Mary Grace. I'm also going to run a couple of quick commercials here for you so that we can let you know who else is supporting the show here. So just hold on a second. We'll be right here. I see a lot of comments, and we will be back with more content. So let's hear from our Grid Down Chowdown guys, and then we'll hear from our friends over at Synapse so that we can help you guys get dialed in on your health. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and this is my brother.
And I'm Nace, and we're the Grid Down Chowdown, and this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with.
Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
What it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years. How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch? Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code Mary Grace. Americans spend more now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We've put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Sproul and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to officialsynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's Official Synapse, synapse.com. Okay, and I want to give a real, like a personal shout out to Synapse, because I've been working with Dr. Troy and his team, and they have given me, it's really helped me to think much more clearly about the issues that I've been dealing with, because they look at root cause of issues. And everybody I know that has started to work with them has said similar things. And so if you go to the website, officialsynapse.com, just make sure you tell them Mary Grace sent you. They give you a free discovery call. It's like a 20-minute call, and then you can go through, have a conversation with them, just figure out if it's going to be a good fit for you. I definitely recommend it. Any of the links that I've mentioned today, pretty much all of my affiliate links are found on my website. And if you go to marygracemedia.com, you can go to the shopping tab and you can find those links. We also have a resource for gold and silver these days. If you are looking at moving gold and silver if you're moving some of your IRA or your retirement into gold and silver, we're working with Augusta Precious Metals, and they'll give you a free guide. And so this is really good because it just kind of educates you about how it works to have some of your deferred tax savings in real physical precious metals. And then if you want to set up a call with them, you can, and you just use the promo code Mary Grace. And so that's a no obligation thing that because a lot of people have questions. I mean, the price of gold is skyrocketing, silver is skyrocketing. What's going to happen with it? How can it benefit me? I can't answer those questions. That's not my area of expertise. But this is a good group that will work with you, no pressure. It's all about education. And then if you decide to work with them, it's win-win. We get a little commission here on the show, and then they're going to help you safeguard your retirement if that's what you want to do. So that's it. And we're going to bring Dave back here in just a second. Let me get back up to my website. So again, marygracemedia.com. You can find my links over there. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I did want to address one thing because I haven't been on the show. I haven't been doing the show very much. And I'm going to bring Dave back on because Dave has been in on the conversation about kind of where I've been with stuff. But I didn't mean to get you disappear. That's not good. Didn't
Your mic is toast again. Hey, you sound like you're underwater. Try it again.
Gosh.
You're good.
So I wonder what's happening. Okay, yeah. I hope everybody heard what I said all this time.
Yeah, you were fine up until right when you brought me on. You dropped out for like 2 seconds, but you're fine.
I think this is a restream problem. Okay. Something about that. Okay, so here's what I wanted to say. I was just addressing the fact that I haven't been around. I haven't been posting that much. I haven't been doing lives. And I had decided back in March, like mid-March, to take a little bit of a break. And then God actually gave me an assignment outside of social media that's really important, and it brings in a lot of my skills from previous careers and things like that. But it's not something I've been posting about, just mainly for confidentiality reasons, for the people that I'm involved with. Just know that I'm here. Everything's going great. There are some challenges that we're dealing with to do some advocacy, and so I can't be more detailed about it. But if I could, I would ask you to continue to pray about the situation that I'm involved with, because it's really, really important work. It's just not work that I'm doing publicly and online. And I appreciate your understanding. I'm going to do my best to be doing more shows. And again, Dave and his wife are very familiar with what's happening in my life. And it's all good. It's just not a public situation. So that's where we are on that. Did I explain that well? I hope
You
so.
explained that very well.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. So Dave, I kind of do want to talk about the bromance. Can we talk about Elon and Trump a little bit? Just a little bit.
You won't like my take, but let's talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, we may have different takes on this. I kind of have, because I think the band is getting back together. But yeah, tell us what you think. I mean, it was definitely, I mean, the whole world was a buzz. I mean, I think one of the reasons for it was to get libs to stop firebombing Tesla dealerships. I think that was part of it, but I'm sure there's more to it. So yeah, tell us what you think.
All right, here's my unpopular take. I think that the fallout between Trump and Elon was exactly what it appeared to be.
Interesting.
That's my take. I don't think there was any degree of kayfabe or theater at all in this. I don't think there was an ulterior motive. They had already stopped firebombing the Teslas. I don't think this was a way to get libs to come back and warm up to Elon or anything else. I don't think there was any subterfuge. I think it was exactly what you see at face value is exactly what it was. And here's my take on it. Elon and Trump came to different opinions about a very controversial subject, which was the big, beautiful bill.
Okay.
All right. That's what the fallout was over. This is, and here's what I saw going on. Elon has no experience in government at all up until this point in his life. He suddenly gets the green light from Trump. Hey, come on in and help us clean up the waste and graft and fraud and corruption, and bring in your brainiacs, and we'll find all the waste, and we'll start erasing it and fixing it and cutting off payments to USAID and all this other stuff. So Elon comes in to the Trump administration thinking that he is going to be able to make a big difference. And he runs into the monolithic waste of toilet paper called Congress. And he suddenly is confronted with the fact that Congress is not interested in making these Doge cuts permanent because it's Congress.
Right.
Like, we have donors and we have lobbyists, and they're the ones who call the tune, not you, Mr. Musk. So you can just go away. You had your little fun for a couple of months. Go away. We're going to do what we've been doing, which is pile on additional trillions of dollars of debt because our donors and our lobbyists tell us that that's what we have to do. We don't dance to your tune, Mr. Elon Musk. Go away. So Elon finds out, holy crap, this congressional thing is really corrupt, and they don't give a damn about saving taxpayer money. Elon had this run-in, bam, he hit the wall of Congress and was pissed off because Congress would not make permanent all of the savings and things that he found. So Elon goes on offensive against Congress and is like, vote no on this bill. This is trash. It's garbage. It's going to add more to the debt. And one of Elon's big things is he is concerned about the U.S. defaulting on its debt. He has tweeted about this over and over for the last 2 or 3 years. You cannot continue spending trillions and trillions and adding trillions on the debt. Eventually, you're going to default. Elon is a CEO. He's a CEO of what, 6, 7 companies? The Boring Company, Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink. As a CEO, Elon has learned how to run his companies efficiently. Bottom line is we have to make a profit and we have to put out a really good product. So he tries to make the best cars, the best spaceships, the best internet service, the best boring machines, all the stuff that he's doing. He tries to create high efficiency, functional products at a low cost to the consumer. And it's all about efficiency. Mr. Efficiency had a date with Congress, which is the least efficient, least streamlined organization.
Yeah.
Elon had this cognitive dissonance, like, holy crap, these people don't know anything and don't care about efficiency. I simply think that Elon had a meltdown because suddenly realized Congress is not interested in efficiency. They're not going to cut spending. And he went on a rant on X for a couple of days, pissed off because he suddenly realized none of this was going to matter. Congress is going to do what Congress is going to do. Now, at the same time, Trump is now trying to get this bill passed through Congress, and now Elon is torpedoing it. And Trump already knows what Elon doesn't know. Trump knows damn well that Congress isn't going to make permanent all of the cuts that Elon put in there. Trump is like, look, Elon, there's a game here. It's called, we have to give them what they want, and they're going to give us what I want.
Yeah.
And Trump's like, I want them to defund USAID. I want them to fund the border wall. I want them to fund ICE, an increase in ICE agents. I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. He goes to Mike Johnson, Trump goes to Mike Johnson and says, okay, I get it. You guys are going to fill this thing with pork. Here are the 18 things I need in this bill. Put these things in the bill, and I will sign it into law. You can have your pork. I need these things. Mike Johnson says, okay, we'll make it happen. Mike Johnson puts in the things that Trump wants. So then Trump is supporting the bill and pushing it. But Elon sees all the pork and is like, this is crap. No one should vote for this. Call your congressman and torpedo this bill. I simply think that Elon and Trump came in on this bill from different perspectives and had an argument, and Trump got pissed off because Elon was trying to torpedo his bill. And Elon got pissed off because Trump was willing to see all this waste and risk the government defaulting. I simply think it's that and nothing else. They had a difference of opinion. They decided to go public with it, and it blew up a lot of people's minds for a few days or weeks. Now it's going back to what it used to be, probably.
Yeah. Okay. So I can see that. And again, I wasn't following that closely, but I think, so Elon deleted a lot of his posts. He came out and sort of apologized and said, I said some things that I shouldn't have said.
Right.
And were they together yesterday? Were they back together?
I don't know.
Okay.
Trump was in the Situation Room most of yesterday, I think.
So somebody just,
or is that the parade too? But
okay. So somebody just said, if we'll know if Elon is back, by the way that Melania treats him. If she allows him around her family again, then everything's okay. But
it's probably true.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. So thank you for clarifying about that. I mean, it was definitely, and then his comment about Epstein Island, like that was kind of a red line.
Two big egos clashing on social media. That's what it was. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I get the fact that there's a lot of people in the movement. They hate any time it looks like something bad is happening to Trump.
Yeah.
And so they create in their mind, oh, this is kayfabe. This is theater. Trump's playing 3D chess and he's got a thing going on here. And it's just, it's all fake. It's not real. No. The movement really isn't falling apart. Trump really isn't, pissed off at Mike Pence. This is just theater. It's all kayfabe. And this kayfabe thing has been going on for 8 years. And it turns out that the people that we thought were backstabbers and traitors really were backstabbers and traitors. It wasn't kayfabe. It wasn't theater. And so that narrative for me, I never instantly assume this is kayfabe, this is theater. I usually assume with Trump, what you see is what you get. This is really happening. It is exactly what it looks like. Although there are some instances where Trump is actually not being fully transparent and maybe playing a little bit of theater.
Right.
Those instances are rare now.
He told us way back when he said especially when we were first getting to know more intimately the idea of the fake news. The news is the leaks are real. The news is fake.
Right.
So I think we always have to keep that in mind, that there are a lot of things that are intentionally put out, whether it's to trip up the media as a distraction, also to root out traitors or leakers, right? We've seen him do that a number of times, and stories will come out that are inaccurate and they're being run by one or two outlets, and then certain people are ousted from the Trump circle because he plants stories to root out
Steve Bannon.
Loyal people. Yeah. So it's interesting. Okay. So we probably have about 20 minutes that we can left if we want to keep talking. So yeah. What else is on your mind? You've been working. Yeah. Where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about?
I'm working on some books.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. If I have been absent online, and not interacting as much and not doing as much externally, it's because internally I'm insanely busy working on a bunch of books. I'm working on a whole slew of science fiction short stories and novels. I'm working concurrently on 3 science fiction books in a trilogy. I'm working on all 3 storylines at the same time, getting ready to publish the first book in that series, working on a book on overcoming fear. I'm working on a book that is tentatively being titled Spiritual Warfare Made Simple. I'm working on a bunch of short stories that are about faith and relationship with God. Some of them are modern retellings of ancient parables. I'm just, I
I'm
have
going to
so
put your
much.
links up. I'm going to put some of your links up while you're talking.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
well, yeah, you've
I
got.
have a lot. I
Yeah.
have a lot going on in my mind right now. There's just a lot of juice on writing, so I'm doing an enormous amount of writing and editing. And if I haven't been as present online as you'd like me to be, it's because I'm insanely busy writing. I'm going to try to publish a whole bunch of books this year. We'll see how that goes. I always have these great aspirations, like, oh, I'm going to publish, this book in another week, and then a month later, it's still not published because, well, stuff happens.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm busy writing. I'm also very busy building out some off-grid radio systems because I'm still having dreams about the grid going down, communication systems going down, and us needing radios for communication. So I'm working on building a resilient, off-grid, inexpensive communication system here in Phoenix using Meshtastic. And
Wait, there's a book for that. Hold on.
there is a book for that. It's called
Yes.
Meshtastic Made Simple.
Getting there.
I'm actually now building in my Frankenstein laboratory. If you saw my desk, you'd be like, what in the world happened? There's electronic gear all over my desk. I'm building these low power transmitters in enclosures that are weatherproof and adding solar panels to them so they can be deployed outside and create a communication system that doesn't involve internet or cell phone. So I've been very busy on that, and I just got a lot of stuff going on. I'm trying to help Denise sort through her own health issues. She's making progress on that. She's seeing a new doctor who's going to work with her on some of the issues, and hopefully we're going to get a root cause analysis and start addressing some of these issues one by one. At least now we know what the issues are, and we're going through a systematic process of elimination to determine the root cause, and then some treatments for that. So I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
If it seems like I'm not as active on social media, like Mary, she's got a lot going on. It's important stuff that's going on. It's just not things that you're necessarily going to see online. And
Right.
I have a similar situation, although it's different. I can talk about my stuff. Mary can't talk about her stuff. So
Yes. Thank you. And but yeah, it's just, we all go through seasons, right? And
Right.
some of it's public, some of it's private, and no, not both equally important. Speaking of public, a lot of people have known, that my dad had his stroke, and they ask about him, and I did want to say that he's doing really well. So we're trying to do as much activity as we can, going out, going swimming, getting him in the pool, things like that. And we do have a good caregiver situation now, so that's helpful. Let's see what else. So I put Dave's links up here, and I think, let me just do this a little more. We'll go through. Dave has a lot of books, and I think a lot of people could benefit from these. So we got Power and Authority Made Simple.
22 books.
Okay. We've got
think.
Emotional Healing Made Simple. I don't have them all up here. Dave was talking about radio communications, but also you have this book, Emergency Preparedness Made Simple, and it is recommended.
It's emergency preparedness and off-grid
and
communication.
off-grid communications.
Right. So
Yeah,
it covers both.
Not made simple.
Basic preparedness and off-grid radio communication.
Yes, and this is one where it really helps to have a hard copy for obvious reasons. And and then we've got Mary Goy's Wellness Store sprinkled in there, and then we've got the Q, fourth book of Q. That one is available online. Meshtastic Made Simple. That is, if you're geeking out when you hear those words, click the link right now. And okay, Dream Interpretation Made Simple. And is that Charity's Garden? And then we've got if you haven't
Charity's Garden, the latest book.
yes, if you have not read the book prior to that, Shiloh's Gates of Shiloh, get the set. Okay.
Yes,
And
they go
then,
well together.
yeah. And then at some point you're going to have those on audio, right? You're working on that.
I don't know. Maybe it's going to be an investment, a significant investment in money to do the audio versions of
Yeah,
those two
that's
books.
right. You
And,
do
and
have
I don't know if there's a return on investment that's going to justify the cost. And I know there are going to be people who say, well, why don't you just read it yourself and put up? Well,
because your voice puts people to sleep in a good way.
It's not that simple. Recording an audiobook is a pretty technical project that requires,
Yeah.
well, I do have sort of a studio here, but it's a
different.
lot of time. There's a learning curve to doing it. And I'm not promising that there's going to be an audiobook on those. I'm just going to say that.
But you do have your Made Simple books are on audio, right?
But you know what? You can download the Kindle and have a device read it to you.
Well, you can do that too. Yeah. But listen, we have an Audible free trial. So if you do want to listen to Dave's other books on audio, you can.
All of the Made Simple books are available on Audible.
So click this link. It'll take you to Dave's page on Amazon, and then you can do the Audible free trial. It's a 30-day free trial, and you can find all of his Made Simple books and get those and get them read with the actual narrator that he hired to do those books.
Which is not me. It's Stephen Bremner, a friend of mine, who does the narration for those.
But everybody likes him. Yeah. So okay, let's see the chat. Okay. I think we're about to wind up here. I know there's topics that we didn't talk about. We can't talk about everything. We can't.
No, we can't.
Yeah. But
we have to save something for next time.
Yeah, we can talk about a lot of things, and we will try not to wait as long this time.
Right.
It's summer. That's the other thing.
Your microphone went underwater. I can't hear you.
Okay. Anybody? Can you hear me now?
You're back.
This microphone is not supposed to be in my face like this. It's supposed to be able to work the other way.
I don't think it's the position of the microphone.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah. So, see, Paula says, I'm sorry, but Dave's voice does relax me and I will fall asleep. The Zen of Dave. Isn't that because of your NPR training? Didn't they train you to put people to sleep with your voice?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. I did a radio show on NPR years ago, and I had to develop the flat, sort of monotone NPR voice. So yes.
Yeah. See, this is a little known fact about Dave, but it's true. So I think that's important. But I was actually saying before that it's summer, and that's another reason that people get super busy. I kind of took a vacation, but it was interrupted a lot by the stuff that I was doing in this other assignment. So I was camping, but I was like camping, coming back to town, camping, coming back to town. So thank goodness my niece is fully invested in the project that we're working on, because otherwise she would have been like kind of mad at me because it's our annual girls camping trip. But she was cool. So I think that's it for now. So just a reminder, follow me at marygracemedia.com. You can find links to all of my social media. If you are looking to get your supplements moved over to my wellness store, go ahead and do that. And if there's something specific you've been buying, go ahead and ask me and we'll see if we can put it up. If you're doing something that's like an MLM, we're not going to be able to put that in our wellness store. But if it's something that, like Thorne, there's a bunch of really good brands that people like, we can get most of those. Nutritional Frontiers, there's a lot of really good ones. And then Dave, where can people follow you?
PrayingMedic.com and PrayingMedic.org. Also on Telegram. My Telegram channel is praying_medic.
Awesome. And I want to give a shout out to my moderators over on Rumble. We have Christy, Millie, and Delia, all of the OG Periscope girls that have been with us for so long. The
Thanks, ladies.
girls, ladies. Okay, everybody have a great day. And please let us know in the comments on the replay that you were here. Also, share, repost, whatever it is that you do on whatever platform you're in. It helps get the views out. And we appreciate all of you for being here. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Go outside, touch some grass, look at the sky, talk to God, and put your device down after you finish watching this. Bye.